Yes, good morning once again. Few minutes ago, we been in talk, say Dr. Bat could join us here in the building to talk about health matter, and like we did promised, he is here. Dr. Bat don't dey gidigba. Gbangba with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chief.
How you doing, sir?
Yeah, pleased to be back.
Top up the moment to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sylvester,
good morning.
You're looking sweet as always.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, viewers at home and around the world. We're happy to be back today on Health Matter. This morning, we'll be looking at coronavirus. We started this topic about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We need to give an update of how far the world has gone in its battle against this scourge. As we did say in some of the presentations before now, it is a new virus, okay? I want to start by saying that coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that are known to cause diseases, predominantly in animals. But a few of them also do affect humans. Before now, there were about 6 strains of coronaviruses, okay, that were known to man as far back as 1960s, okay? But with the advent of the newest of them all, the one that WHO has officially named COVID-19, talking about the novel coronavirus, is now the 7th type of coronavirus. Before now, we saw 2 virulent strains of coronavirus in the world. The first was in the year 2000 and 2003, talking about SARS that emanated from China, okay? It killed so many people. The second virulent type that was equally as deadly as SARS, the full meaning of SARS is severe acute respiratory syndrome, okay? We also saw in the year 2012, that was in the Middle East, another type of coronavirus called MERS, mass coronavirus, Middle East respiratory syndrome, which of course did kill so many, okay? From what we know about these 2 deadly coronaviruses before we started seeing the NCOV, the 2019 coronavirus, these viruses are similar in their presentations. Of course, let me go back to the name corona. Corona is a Latin word that depicts or means crown. Okay, so because of the structure of the virus that looks more like a crown, that's why they took the name corona. So coronaviruses predominantly affect animals, but a few of them have been affecting man lately. And of course, the 7th one is the COVID-19 or NCOV, which of course we are talking about today. Now, let me also point out at this time that the world is doing what it can to contain this scourge, okay? A whole lot of efforts on a global scale are being put in to tame this deadly virus. But of course, the virus itself is not abating. As we speak, over 67,000 people have been affected globally. Over 67,000 people have been affected globally. And it has caused over 1,500 deaths. Just about a day or 2 ago, we saw the news, the headline in some major news media, CNN and others, that 1,700 health workers have been affected. 1,700 health workers have been affected. And out of these 1,700 health workers, there were about 6 fatalities. 6 people did not survive. So it's beginning to, as frightening as the picture may be, there see a whole lot of positive developments that we have to know about. As we speak, a number of people have equally survived this disease. Suffice also to say that over 90% of people who may be infected with this coronavirus may survive with or without treatment. But the truth of the matter is that they need to be quarantined so that they don't end up spreading it. Okay, so the case fatality is said to be about 2%. That is not to say that it makes it less deadlier. We have seen something similar with a case fatality of about 2%, talking about the 1819 Spanish flu or Spanish influenza that affected over 500 million people and killed about 50 million people. I'm not saying that we are going to see that, but at the moment, there are a lot of developments. A number of people, over 60 million people, are still being kept in lockdown in China. Yes, they've resumed activities. The people have gone back to work after the lunar holidays ended towards the end of January. But I can tell you today that governments are becoming to be more ingenious. People are now being told to work from their homes. People now do their work from their homes. Children now take, students and children now take lessons on the internet so that they won't have to gather in a particular location. Okay. Now, why is this possible? The fear still exists. The concerns are still there because of the route of transmission of this disease. Talking about the transmissibility. Okay. For a number of people for a number of infected individuals that may come down with symptoms, some of the symptoms that we may likely see, we include, top on the list, of course, is fever. A recent study that was carried out in Wuhan State University discovered that 99% of all the infected individuals at least presented with fever. And there were other symptoms too that people who have this infection can present with, which include runny nose, respiratory difficulties. Oftentimes, what kills most of these patients is a form of pneumonia that is called viral pneumonia. What is pneumonia? Infection that affects the inside of the lungs, often with accumulation of fluid. And the sad thing about this infection, this viral pneumonia, is that it does not have any cure, at least at the moment. Okay? But that said, there are beginning to be some encouraging developments that we are seeing all over the world. For instance, a number of people who have survived these coronaviruses, their plasma, they are being asked to donate their plasma. An aspect of a blood, human blood, is called plasma. Okay, so they are being asked to donate their plasma, which are currently being tested, being used to treat critically ill people who are down with this disease and have been moved into intensive care units. And of course, encouraging results have been coming out of it. So in no distant time, there may be a development of a vaccine that will actually tackle this infection. Just like what we saw in Lassa fever, if we all could still remember the video that we saw some time ago, how it all started in Nigeria. Talking about the woman who was the first survivor of Lassa fever in Nigeria. When she went back to the US after her treatment, her serum was brought back to Nigeria and was used to cure a number of people that had Lassa fever. And of course, they were able to survive. So we are beginning to see such an arrangement happening with the new coronavirus. Also, it would be nice to mention, because one of the first Africans that was affected by this scourge, however, not in an African region, okay, it was said to be a Cameroonian student, a 21-year-old student in Wuhan. He became infected at early part of February. But at the moment, he was discharged from the hospital some 2 or 3 days ago. He has been completely cured.
Of this coronavirus?
Of this coronavirus.
Doctor, what was responsible? Was it because it was early detected, or he's got strong
or there's a vaccine?
There wasn't any vaccine. There wasn't any vaccine. Remember I said,
he was lucky?
Yes. Remember I said at the beginning that from the data that we have seen, 90% of people who may pick this infection can actually survive with or without therapy, with or without treatment.
You mean it's self-limiting?
Some viral infections are like that.
As serious as this corona is?
Yes. Now, the major treatment that are usually done for most of the people that come down disease is just symptomatic treatment. If the person has fever, you give something to bring down the fever. Has headache, you give painkillers to bring down the headache. The person is stooling, you also give something to probably stop the stooling. Also, diarrhea has been found to be one of the symptoms of the COVID-19, meaning that the recent studies that were carried out equally showed that the virus can be picked from human stools for somebody who is presenting with diarrhea. So a whole lot of discoveries are still ongoing. also, going back to the question you asked, there was also this speculation, which of course has not been substantiated, that the African genetic makeup may have helped this young Cameroonian to survive. Okay, but I've also seen studies that have said no, there may not be any element of scientific evidence for that. Okay, but it's important for us to know that in as much as people are dying, people are equally surviving. Okay, so that's a glimmer of hope that we can all look at.
Okay, before we go further, sir, at the beginning of this presentation, you made us realize that we had SARS, we had influenza fever, and all.
Yes.
The types of corona we had before.
Yeah, I think it's the seventh one.
Yeah, this is the seventh one. Yes.
Were there vaccines for those ones, or they were just self-limiting and the team went into extinction?
Thank you very much for that very important question. Now, the coronaviruses that we have seen in time past, the 6 of the previous ones that we have seen in time past before the advent of the latest one, which of course is the COVID-19, okay, the new NCOV, 2019 NCOV, 4 of those coronaviruses were not known to cause any major issues in humans. They only affected predominantly animals. Okay, but 2 among them were the ones that actually affected humans. Talking about the SARS that emanated from China in the year 2002-2003. Okay, now the number of similarities between these coronaviruses. Okay, for instance, it was believed that SARS came from civet cats. Okay, why MERS coronavirus, the one that was discovered in the Arabian Peninsula, came from camel. Okay, Somali camel. Thank you very much. That's the type of camel that was said to be the host. Okay, now we are beginning to see evidences in support of the latest, the COVID-19, the new coronavirus, also coming from an animal, but this time around, bat has been suspected. Yeah. Okay, it is not just based on suspicion. They've been able to do a sequencing of the makeup of this coronavirus, and of course, they said that it matches about 96% to that can be related with bats. Suffice also to say that even within the COVID-19 coronavirus, there are about 19 subtypes or strains, if you like. Talking about the 7th one, it still has subtypes. And of course, there have been arguments for and against mutation with this COVID-19 virus, meaning that what mutation is all about is that you see someone today, he's putting on a hat, just like you're doing, the same virus. And by tomorrow, he's putting on a red cap. And by the 3rd day, he's not putting on anything. So it keeps changing, and it is making scientific research along this line very difficult. Okay? But what we need to do, because before now, only about a few hours ago, less than 12 hours ago, we discovered that Egypt, that the first case has actually been detected in Africa. And of course, it happened in Egypt. The information is still sketchy, a bit sketchy, because they haven't told us the origin or the nationality of this individual that was said to have tested positive in an Egyptian airport. They have also told us what airport he tested positive. Okay, well, all that they have given out was that he was picked out. That a foreigner must have been discovered in Egypt that tested positive to the COVID-19. Okay. Also, another startling element of the whole of all of this is the fact that people who are asymptomatic can actually transmit this disease. So it's a worrisome development. Okay, this brings us to incubation period of this disease. Going by similar presentation, going by this, the ones that we know concerning the earlier ones that we have seen before. Okay, so the incubation period is said to be between 2 to 14 days. That accounts for the reason why usually people will be kept in some countries of the world in mandatory quarantine for at least a period of 14 days. Okay, very recently there was a case of a Japanese that traveled all the way from Japan. She had no symptoms at the time of her trip and visited a state in the US, Hawaii. And then while she was in the US, she also didn't show any symptoms. Okay, but when she got back to Japan, she tested positive to the virus. So they are beginning to do a contact tracing to all the places and all the people that have close contact with her while she was in the US. So that is how the spread can happen. If you have someone testing positive in an airport, is an indication that such a person must have at least been exposed, must have exposed some other people to that degree of risk.
Most especially in the aircraft.
Yes, we saw a number of cruise ships that had a number of people that were infected.
Okay.
One is still in Japan, and of course the number is still climbing.
Okay, Dr. Bat, on that, let us quickly hold you a bit so that we can go on this short break. Health Matter, we'll be right back. Go nowhere.
Health matter na serious matter o. That na why we dey always get Dr. Bat Ufegbunam every Saturday to come teach us and enlighten us on top we health matter. You fit also advertise your product and services on top we show wey dey help people. Terms and conditions apply sha o.
Hello Lagosians, my name is Aki Ambayomi. I'm the Commissioner of Health for Lagos. I'm here to tell you about this new infection that's going around the world. It's called the coronavirus. It emanated in China. It came from the animal kingdom. It has affected 17 countries. About 4,590 patients have been affected, with about 106 deaths to date. It has typical symptoms: headache, running nose, cough, sore throat, muscle ache, high fever, difficulty breathing, pneumonia perhaps. And if you feel that you are experiencing any of these symptoms and you've had a contact either by virtue of travel to Southeast Asia or people that have come from Southeast Asia, we would like you to present to one of our general hospitals. Here in Lagos, we're ramping up our capacity. Our general hospitals are getting more in tune with this situation. We're increasing our surveillance at the airports. We're building our emergency operations center where we can harmonize our response to this infection. Please, Lagosians, take this situation seriously and contact any of the numbers that we're going to display on the screen for you.
This message is from the Lagos State Ministry of Health. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó, ó ti di àjùmọ̀ṣe, Èkó á sàn wá o.
Coronaviruses are a family of viruses that range from the common cold to MERS coronavirus, which is Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, and SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus. Coronaviruses are circulating in animals, and some of these coronaviruses have the capability of transmitting between animals and humans. We call that a spillover event. Coronaviruses typically cause respiratory symptoms, so we recommend basic hand hygiene, such as washing your hands with soap and water, and respiratory hygiene, such as when you sneeze, sneezing into your elbow. Ways to protect yourself against a potential animal source would be to avoid unnecessary, unprotected contact with live animals, and to make sure that you wash your hands thoroughly after contact with an animal, and also to make sure that your meat is cooked thoroughly before consuming. There are no specific treatments for coronaviruses, but symptoms can be treated.
Okay, you're welcome back to the show. We still talk about the COVID-19, otherwise known as 2019 NCOV, coronavirus. Dr. Bat don't make us realize say the suspected animal we carry and call na bat. Bat na be the major suspect. Vis-a-vis, they don't give us the statistical data or analysis of the health workers. We say they don't contact, tabi even wounded through this coronavirus. Corona crown, as you take tell us. But before we go any further, let's open the phone line, then I'll ask the question I have here. Mama.
Okay, of course, the numbers are on the screen. Feel free to call those numbers. Just turn down your TV volume, 08105434984, and of course 08173147585. 89. Call and ask your questions or feel free to make your contributions.
Thank you very much. I must give due credit to Lagos State Commissioner of Health, Lagos State government for that wonderful video. Also to WHO, World Health Organization. Thank you very much. We appreciate the work, the good work you guys are doing to contain this deadly monster of a disease. Okay? Now, we talked about the challenges, the newer challenges that we are seeing on daily basis. At the time he made that video, you can see the people that died at that time were a lot more smaller than the fatalities we have as of today. Just on one day alone, 143 new deaths were recorded in China, mainland China, just on Friday. And as we speak, the number of confirmed cases have exceeded 67,000 and still climbing and still mounting. And out of this figure, 1,700 health workers, 1,700 health workers have been affected. As a doctor, you feel a strong concern. If this thing hits our shores, how can we respond to this? Because I can tell you that the critically ill people that have this disease are being managed in ICU, intensive care unit. And one begins to wonder, how many ICUs do we have in Lagos State? How many ICUs do we have in the whole of Nigeria? With respect to our population, okay? So I think more emphasis should be on policing our ports of entries. Granted that some people may come in when they are not showing any symptoms, asymptomatic carriers, but the ones that we can pick, please, let's pick them. I also think there will be a need at this stage for government to probably get a bill to back a law to keep people under mandatory quarantine, just like we have seen in the US. Okay? The US government had to get a law to keep people under mandatory quarantine. When you have a travel history of having visited such a place, having visited Wuhan or China, so that people will not start going to court that you're being kept incommunicado without any
There's a law to back
existing
that.
law. So let there be a law to back it up so that people who may come in from those places, be you a foreigner or a Nigerian, you can be kept in mandatory quarantine. Okay, so the idea of asking people to self-isolate themselves will not work in this case. It will not work. I'm making a strong case. Yes.
Gallo was quarantined.
Yes. So I'm making a strong case today that there should be a law to back up mandatory quarantine, because the best we can do is to prevent this from hitting our shores. Okay, because prevention is always better than cure. Prevention is always better than cure. I must also appreciate the federal government, Ministry of Health. They're doing a fantastic job. Nigeria Center for Disease and Control, they're doing a wonderful work. The Director General and his team,
Dr. Abayomi.
No, Dr. Ihekwazu. Okay, I'm talking about NCD. Professor Abayomi is the Commissioner of Health for Lagos State. It has been wonderful. Okay, but all of this effort, we need to do more. Okay, so let's get to practical things now. I can tell you as a doctor, I've made an attempt to acquire the simplest of what you think you will need to prevent yourself. Because I tell you the truth, face mask.
Anyways, I've been seeing all of that on the street.
A number of private hospitals. Private hospitals should be well equipped, because many of these cases may start with private hospitals, even before they get to government centers. Look at what happened when Ebola came. Of course, it started with a private hospital. So more attention should be paid to private hospitals. There should be seminars organized for healthcare workers in Lagos State and a number of other places in Nigeria, so that they will know what to do, what to look out for. It's not just enough to assume that doctors have updated themselves. Okay, so we need to do more along those lines. Okay, so that people will know. It might get to a level, it might get to a time that one may have to be doing telephone consultation. I'm just trying to be futuristic in my thinking. Okay, because when I read some of the, in order to protect yourself, when I read some of the things that the doctors are doing abroad, once you have somebody presenting with such symptoms, what you should do, distance yourself from the patient, leave the environment, and of course, contact the necessary people, notify the necessary people that you need to do, and prevent anybody else from stepping into that consulting room until it has been fumigated or sanitized or something. Okay, so that way we can help to contain the spread. Okay, so that's what we need to do. We need to step up what we are doing in preparation. Our preparedness is what I'm talking about. Okay, because look at what has happened. Of course, it has gotten to Egypt, and we have seen a Cameroonian who was said to have survived. Okay, what makes you think that Nigerians that are in Wuhan may not want to visit? Of course, there's a lockdown at the moment. Okay, but yes, even the people that have been said to be cured, there are still debates as to if those ones can still have the capacity to transmit this virus to others or not. So a whole lot needs to be put in place as a country, as a people. It's not just what we can do as individuals, because as an individual, what you can do is, of course, if you're presenting with symptoms that are suggestive of anything, don't forget we still have Lassa fever.
Yes, to deal
with us here.
And there are 27 states
what you can do
already
is to self-isolate. Make sure that you don't come in contact with other people, so that you don't infect your loved ones. You don't infect people around you. Okay, and notify the authorities. Okay. Now, if you also have anybody around you that is presenting with some of the symptoms that we have mentioned, cough that is not abating,
fever,
sneezing profusely, okay, sore throat, fever, diarrhea, all those symptoms, please learn to keep away from sick people. Ensure that the person gets transferred or get such a person to the hospital as soon as possible, where they have the capacity to make a right diagnosis. Okay, so we need to equip ourselves with all these necessary tools. Okay, because it's not whether it's going to enter Nigeria. We pray it does not come, but of course it has gotten to Egypt. And of course we have seen a Cameroonian that survived. Okay, so we can't just shy away from that. The best we can do is to equip our centers, and which I'm happy government are beginning to do so.
Okay, doctor, before we move further, is it, since you're actually making a case, which is a good one, is it advisable for our government now, because we can't tell who is watching at the moment, is it advisable for our government now to start preparing emergency centers like we saw in China? They had over 10,000 beds
under 1
week.
Under 10 days, quickly
under
build
10
a
days.
hospital. Yes.
We know that our own emergency response might not be as sharp as this. So you as a medical practitioner, is it important that our government should start preparing that, or you feel it's
vis-a-vis, I think Chief also saw that in the paper. Was it yesterday where they said they're ready to give 37 million naira to anyone that can come with an
come up with a cure.
Yeah, a cure to coronavirus.
I will answer your question, but let me react to the one you said. Now, with an infection like this, with a new virus like this, it will take some time for vaccines to be developed. It will take some time for treatment or cure to be found. What we are saying is that whatever developments are coming, is it going to come out in time to meet up with these challenges that we're having? Just in China alone, under 1 day, they recorded over 2,400 cases in 1 day. As we speak now, yes, majority of the deaths have occurred in mainland China, but there were 3 deaths currently outside of China. Somebody has died in Philippines. The latest was somebody that died in Japan. Okay, so slowly it's creeping into other new cities of the world. So that's why we need to strengthen our health infrastructures, especially the third world countries. We need to strengthen our health infrastructure. It's important we do so, because prevention should be our watchword. Okay? Now, coming to what you asked about the development of centers, Lagos State Commissioner of Health pointed out that they are ramping up efforts. I want to believe that is beginning to happen. Okay? But just like he said, we may not see a massive picture of what we are seeing in China. Of course, they have the money, they have the capacity to do that. Having built a 1,000-bedded hospital in just 10 days. Not just one. I think they've built about 2 additional ones. And apart from that, they've converted stadiums to hospitals. Okay? No. So desperate situation requires desperate measures. We may see that happening in a number of other countries, but we don't pray it gets there. We don't pray it gets there. But at the same time, we shouldn't fold our hands and just say we're waiting on the government.
Okay, we have a caller. Kelechi, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Kelechi.
Yeah. Please, I want to know which African country has been affected by this coronavirus. Is
Thank-
there any?
Yeah,
Thank
we
you
can-
very
we can
much.
hear
Thank you
you.
very much. The country that has been affected
Yeah,
is Egypt. Egypt, sir.
Can you turn down your volume?
A foreigner that entered one of their airports was said to have tested positive to this infection. Also, in the course of the presentation, I also did mention that a Cameroonian who is a 21-year-old student in China has survived from the scourge. Okay, he was admitted, he took ill early in February, but he was discharged some few days ago, and of course, that was a good one.
Yeah, good one.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kelechi.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Bat, if we are to look at this situation critically, we say when coronavirus strike, they come with one particular symptom. Maybe the person could be a stool or which is diarrhea and stuff like that. And you say, now that one go, you will be at work and that one I go tackle, that is when I go treat. Does that mean that in the course of treating it for these other people who never survive, does that mean that their own homo is very low compared to that of the Cameroonian? Because let me ask this, the question on gene.
Yes.
Is the word gene now?
Was it gene? I said
the major
hormones,
word,
like
Immunity.
Should we kukuma face it that whoever
some
will
people
survive
will,
coronavirus
based on
are the
how
people who get
strong your
good
immune
immunity?
system is.
Thank you very much for that question. Let me start by saying that a 73-year-old woman with a pre-existing heart condition,
Cardiovascular.
yes, from Hong Kong, has actually survived coronavirus. Against all odds. Why I use that word, against all odds, is the fact that it has been scientifically proven that people who do not have robust immunity, by way of having pre-existing medical conditions like HIV/AIDS, cancer, asthma, heart conditions, okay? And also the elderly, this set of people are vulnerable. They can easily come down with the disease, okay? But if your immunity system is optimal, your body system may be able to fight it off, okay? We've also seen a little child that was said to have survived. About a 3-year-old child too has equally survived from the deadly scourge.
Wow, 3 years.
Yes, 3 years. About that was said to have also survived. Okay, so there are some encouraging news from some parts of the world. At the same time, there are some of them that are equally demoralizing. I can tell you that for a doctor, for a healthcare worker to hear that 1,700 healthcare workers have been affected is frightening.
With 6 fatalities.
It's frightening. You begin to wonder. We may get to see a situation where, because it's currently happening in China as we speak, patients are being turned back in some of their hospitals. Once they think your symptoms are not strong enough, they will turn you back.
Which is not supposed to be.
Which is not supposed to be, because those ones you turn back, they will still go back and infect others. So you discover that it will keep climbing.
Continue.
Yes, we agree that it is still endemic at this stage. It's not yet a pandemic disease, but it's tending towards that. For it to become pandemic, it ought to have a global affectation. Okay, so even with all that they are putting in place in China, we are still having these numbers skyrocketing by the day. So it is somehow frightening. So sometimes I begin to wonder, how do we combat this if it shows up in Nigeria? You can imagine how many people can we admit? Are we going to have centers where we are going to keep people? Okay. Currently, it has affected Chinese economy badly. Not just Chinese economy, even the world. As we speak now, we have short supply of some of medical consumables that we use in Nigeria. I was talking about face mask the other time, but I didn't finish up the story on face mask. Before now, face mask, a carton of face mask used to sell in the neighborhood of 10 to 16,000 naira. But recently it sold as high as 90,000 for a carton.
Wow.
And of course, you can't even get to buy anymore.
That's
so where
over
do we go
500%
So where do we go from there? Some of these things are known to be imported from China. Okay, so we have a problem on our hands. So we need to.
Are we talking about the regular face mask?
The one you know.
The one.
Go and price it. You marvel at what
No,
you're
I'm
going
saying
to
the ones we need to use. That's what I'm
Yes,
saying.
the
Like,
ones
are
we
they
need to
different
use.
or it's just those regular ones you've always been using?
Even the regular ones that we've always been using, they are now too scarce for anyone to get. It is
and
difficult to
exorbitant.
get. And of course, highly exorbitant. Exorbitant may not be the appropriate word. Highly exorbitant.
Highly.
Exorbitant. Okay, so that shows you the challenges that we are facing. But thank God it is not yet here. So we have all the time to do all our planning. We have all the time to strengthen our capabilities. I'm also happy that Nigeria, earlier when the disease started, a number of our countries of the world confessed that they can't even make a test. They can't even test for this virus. A country like Pakistan. But Nigeria today can conveniently test for coronavirus in Nigeria. Of course, recently, I saw a news just before we started that the few people who were tested in Nigeria tested negative. So kudos to Nigeria. At least we can do the testing within our borders.
Before we go to under 2 minutes, please, can you give us the preventive measures? What are the things that our viewers at home, vis-a-vis ourselves, should do medically to stay away from this disease?
Number one is that you should avoid people with a travel history to China. Okay, any of your relation that is coming from that part of the world, I don't know. I'm not so sure if we have direct flights from China to Nigeria, because it may be difficult for you to actually know where such a person is coming from. Anybody with a recent history of travel, of having traveled abroad, that is around you, that is presenting with symptoms, please advise the person to get to the hospital. As much as possible, stay away from the person. Stay away from anybody that is coughing and sneezing indiscriminately. Always wash your hands. In situations where you can't wash your hand under running water, do please use sanitizers. Okay? If you're sick, self-isolate yourself so that you don't get to pass across the infection to people around you. Of course, even as much as we are discussing about coronavirus today, don't forget we are still trying to combat the scourge of Lassa fever, which of course has about the same type of presentation. Okay, but the most important thing is for us to know that this disease is highly contagious. It can be transmitted from one individual to the other via respiratory droplets. On that note, we'll be saying bye-bye to you. And stay away from live animals. Avoid unprotected contact with live animals. Pets. Because we were told that this thing started from a seafood market in Wuhan that was dealing illegally in livestock.
Okay, on that note, we want to say a very big thank you, and a very big thank you to Dr. Bat Ufegbunam, the CEO, Grace Valley Medical Center, for the enlightenment we don't give us on top this COVID-19, vis-a-vis the symptoms we don't break down for us: cough, sneezing, catarrh, diarrhea, everything we mentioned. Please let us endeavor to also avoid, or I wouldn't even use the word avoid, but make necessary contacts whenever any of our people will get this travel history, they land. Most especially General Hospital. We hear Professor Abayomi for in video. When we take General Hospital play, they are around us. Reach them, make the person
the contact numbers too.
Contact numbers.
Yes, the contact numbers were shown on that video where we had Professor Abayomi talking about the coronavirus. So those contact numbers, please copy them down. Have it in some strategic places in your house. You never can tell where you will need them. So that as soon as you see one, we can alert the authorities. Remember, the key to preventing this is early detection.
Okay,
I think the numbers are showing once more.
Wow,
yeah, the numbers are being displayed once more.
So that's the contact number. 0
Can they take away our own number so that they can see it? Just for
even if they get us, we can equally give them the number. That's fantastic.
08023169483. So on that premise, we want to say a very big thank you. Keep it with us Saturday next week, most definitely. Dr. Gude here, and we'll carry something wonderful health-wise. Combo go feel learn from other lovely programs still they lined up for you. Committee still there here, I believe 1 to 2. Yeah, she go there.
From
so
us.
on that.
Thank you very much.